Gemini, welcome to your weekly reading. Let's get started and see what messages we have for you this week, for the week ahead. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Keeping in mind these are general readings and may not resonate for everyone, so please take the messages that do and check out your other placements because you may have messages there as well. All right, Gemini, let's see. What's the energy around the week ahead for you, Gemini? What's the energy around the week ahead for you, Gemini? A deep knowing. Oh my goodness. And on the bottom of the deck, soulmates. I'm laughing because Aries and Taurus both got soulmates on the bottom of the deck as well. That's very interesting. Okay, so we have a deep knowing and soulmates. Deep knowing sort of fell out in the reverse, which can make me feel like you're sort of resisting your deep knowing, that you know something, you feel it deep down, and it's not your insecurities, it's not your limiting beliefs. This is something that you feel intuitively, and it's not coming from a wounded place. This is a truth that you feel within, and it may have to do with a connection with another individual, a divine connection, one that is meant to sort of show you something about yourself. So seeing these two cards together is very interesting. Again, soulmates, I say again because I said this in the Aries and Taurus reading, soulmate connections are not always romantic. Okay, that's sort of just like this idea that we have about soulmates where it's very romantic. But soulmates can be, in my mind, a soulmate connection is almost like a soul contract, right? Where it's like, hey, when we come to Earth this time, we're going to teach each other this about each other. So I'll be a reflection to you to show you something about yourself and vice versa. And sometimes it can be romantic. Sometimes we develop emotional attachments to our soulmates, but sometimes it's just someone who comes into your life and you might not even think of them as a soulmate. You might just think, well, that wasn't a soulmate. But when you really think about how the experience impacted you, then you start to see it maybe a little bit different. Especially if it really showed you something about a knowing that you have. So I really feel like these two cards together are sort of saying that you're experiencing something through another person that is confirming a deep knowing that you have, or you have a deep knowing about a person and it's the truth that you're intuitively picking up on. Let's see what the tarot cards are going to reveal for you, Gemini. Okay, first two cards is the Hanged Man and the Nine of Swords. So that's interesting. You could have a very deep knowing about somebody and it's causing you a lot of anxiety. It's causing you some fear. It's causing you some stress. You're not able to surrender to this. You're resisting that element of surrender. You want to control a process that you cannot control. Interesting. So there could be something right now, Gemini, that you're trying to control and you can't. It's out of your control. You have to surrender to it. Six of Cups in reverse. So you're feeling very nostalgic about this. You're almost looking at things from the past when it was new and when it was in the beginning and everything was innocent and pure, and it's like you want it to go back to that. It's like you want it to be like it was in the beginning. Why can't we go back to the way it was? Well, we can't. It is what it is now. And I think you have this deep knowing. I think for you, Gemini, this is a reading about something that doesn't feel like a connection and you want it to be. There's the Two of Cups. There is a connection around you right now. There's the Knight of Rods on the bottom of the deck. It's like there's this connection around you right now and it's causing you this feeling of like anxiety and this feeling that it's not letting you feel free. You feel trapped. You might be feeling this deep knowing that something is not for you, and yet I feel like seeing the 6 and the 2 of Cups here makes me wonder if this relationship is from the past and it wants to return. But you have this deep knowing that it's like, I don't think this is a good idea. It's not going to be like it was in the past. For some of you, this is a reading of sort of you almost having this feeling about a relationship. And I think that you're starting to see it in a different way than you had in the past. King of Swords in reverse, very cold energy there with the King of Swords in reverse. Hot and cold. We've got the Knight of Rods and the King of Swords in reverse. Is very hot and cold energy here. Very hot and cold. You're really being guided to reflect on this more. We see the Hermit here, the Death card. This could be transformative. This could be, you got the Judgment card here. This could be a really, really important moment for you, Gemini. It's almost like this is going to have a huge impact. How this proceeds is going to have a huge impact on you. It's very interesting. I feel like whatever happened between you and this person in the past, it's almost like when you think about it in the present, you start to become very cold, very defensive, anxious, and that you're calculating and trying to be very strategic about how you handle this when it comes back. And seeing Temperance now on the bottom of the deck in reverse makes me wonder if you're giving up on something because of a wounded belief. Like, you know, when we started this reading and I was saying that there's a difference between the deep knowing and the wounded knowing. When we operate from a wounded perspective, it's very like easy to become cold and defensive because we want to protect ourselves because we're operating from a place of wounded. And that can bring up a lot of fears. That can bring up a lot of, excuse me, defenses from the past. This Six of Cups for some of you could be that your inner child is so scared of making a connection with someone because they've been hurt. They've been hurt many times. And it's almost like you don't want to make a new connection with anybody because it's almost like you're telling yourself this story, well, it's going to go the way it always has. It's going to go again the same way. I'm going to end up getting hurt, so I need to protect myself. I feel like seeing Temperance in reverse is like you may be giving up too early and you're not trusting your deep knowing. You're listening to the wounded inner child that says we must defend ourselves, be cold, be closed off, be afraid, don't transform. And I think we're seeing the Judgment, Death, and Hermit card here to sort of guide you towards that deep knowing, to guide you towards that deep knowing and away from this idea that we have to stay wounded forever and that the past will always predict the future. You know, it's interesting. This Knight of Rods here, I can't help but wonder if the person that you're dealing with here is sort of really pursuing you. They really are sort of trying to connect to you, and it's like you're giving them the cold shoulder, Gemini. This is interesting. It's like something's trying to break through and you're hanging on to those wounded defensive feelings. And it's like this person has come along to maybe show you how defensive and wounded you are, and that your reaction to them being so cold is a signal that you're not in balance yourself. Again, seeing Temperance in reverse here, there's that Four of Pentacles underneath. It's interesting. You're operating from a place where you're feeling wounded. And it's like there's this limiting belief that says, I always get hurt, so I'm not going to let that happen again. And so you've got your defenses right up, and your deep knowing is trying to guide you in a different direction. That's fascinating. Oops, sorry, I kicked the camera. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Gemini, let's see what message you'll get to close your reading here. But, I think what you can take away from this on a more general level is, are you operating from your deep knowing, your intuitive deep knowing, or are your wounds in the driver's seat? Who's driving the bus right now? It's very interesting. Gemini. Let's see, to close your reading, what is the final sort of guidance here? Confidence is your key to success. And bottom of the deck is a personal issue reaches resolution. So for those of you that have been sort of running around feeling like that level of anxiety and fear and coldness to others, sort of being very defensive, it feels like that is going to come into resolution here if you can sort of feel confident. I think confident in this intuitive deep knowing that you have. And what is that deep knowing telling you about this situation? Who's driving the bus right now? The wound or the intuitive deep knowing? Do you know what I mean? Gemini is very interesting. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sending you so much love and light, and we'll see you again soon for another reading. Take care.